let's dive into this book, and I'm going to show you that entrepreneurship is not always fun. If you've watched the previous episodes, you've seen that we discussed books, and I've been reading books for the past 10 years. Not only books, but non-fiction books. So I know a lot about self-improvement. I'm still on that journey. So I don't know all the answers, but I'm here to help you and to help me. So join me on this ride of being the best version of ourselves. So what do we have today? If you are scrolling on the internet and you see day in the life of a CEO, or if you see young people with so many views doing brand partnerships, and you're going to your corporate 9 to 5, then it's gonna be really demotivating. You're gonna be demotivated. But I am gonna remind you that entrepreneurship is not what it seems. Of course, I would like to be an entrepreneur. I would like to be a CEO, but I'm also really loving the work that I do as a teacher. But what I want to say is that the grass is not always greener on the other side. I'm going to show you that with this book. This book is written by the founder of Nike. In this book, he basically tells his journey. Maybe you think of Nike now as this big brand with good partnerships, and well, you can think whatever of Nike. It's global. Well, it didn't start like it, of course. And I'm gonna explain to you why. So let's dive into this book. Let's start from the beginning. I also want to have a disclaimer. This man studied at Stanford. He's a male, he's white. I do want to say all of these things also to tell you that he had it a little bit easier than other people might have it. He had this assignment, and for this assignment he had this crazy idea. He wanted, and mind you, this was a couple of decades earlier, he wanted to import Japanese sport shoes. You also have to get to know him a little bit. In his college, he was in the athletes team. So he was a runner. Yeah? Okay, so he's always been into running. And he wanted to import and sell Japanese sport shoes. So he graduated Stanford and then he went off to travel. But in his mind, he had this big idea. This first lesson he's gonna teach us is about just try it. Why not? Why not go there? And why not try it? And why not? You don't need to be this big shot CEO to get things done. You just have to try. Because everybody is trying. Nobody, honestly, if I can tell you something about adulting, nobody knows what they're doing. So to be more exact, he wanted to sell tiger shoes from this brand called Onitsuka. He requested a meeting. So he set up a meeting, he went to Japan, and he didn't have a company. He was just this young man going to Japan, wanting to sell shoes with this big and crazy but ambitious idea. And luckily for him, they were already thinking about selling this shoe in the United States. They started to talk about the negotiations, about the technicalities of it all. And then they asked him, what is the name of the company you're with? He didn't have a company and he just quickly came up with Blue Ribbon. They agreed on a sample, a shipment of $50. And then he rang up his dad and he said, Dad, could you please wire $50 to this company and say it's from Blue Ribbon? He came home and he was so excited and so curious if the shoe has arrived already. Well, it hadn't. So that is also another thing. You have to take risks. He took risk. He wired $50 to this manufacturer and he didn't have a shoe at the end of the day. So he was disappointed. He waited a while. He wrote them letters and there was no response. So he thought, okay, I've been scammed. So he took a job. He took a job in accounting. He just went on to pursue his corporate career. Eventually the shoes arrived. So he was so excited. He had a couple of pairs and he immediately sent 2 pairs to his old coach. Remember when I said that he was in the track team? Yeah, so his coach. His coach was Bill Bowerman, and he was this famous coach, and he was focused and obsessed with shoes. He wanted to make the best shoes for his athletes. So what he usually did was basically DIY projects. He took off the sole and he made like a rubber sole. He always had some new design, some new scheme to make our shoes sleeker, softer, lighter, especially lighter. So this man was obsessed with shoes, and now he got a new pair of shoes. Okay, what did he do? He wanted to invest in the company. Not only he wanted to invest in the company, he wanted to be a partner. So they eventually became co-partners. Okay, so fast forward. Phil was selling these shoes. He's from Oregon. He was selling these shoes. He was also selling these shoes in California. And it was always a bit of a gamble to see when the new shipment would arrive. And when he had a new shipment, he could sell that shipment with the money he got. He also got a loan from the bank. So hold on to that story. He also got a loan from the bank in order to put in an even bigger shipment. So he wanted to grow and grow and grow. Then all of a sudden, he received a letter from a wrestling coach all the way in Long Island. This man is saying he has the sole right in America to sell the shoe. He fell off his chair. He was like, I've been selling this much and I've been growing and I've been making a name for myself here. And now I'm getting pushed over by a wrestler coach back in Long Island? How? So he sent a letter, and there was no response. That is another lesson. He didn't take no for an answer. He traveled back to Japan. He wanted to see them in person, and he wanted an explanation of what was happening. Long story short, they eventually agreed that Mr. Wrestler Guy could have the East Coast and Phil could have the West States. And then there is another lesson. We touched on this just a little bit before when I spoke about Coach Bill Bowerman. He was obsessed with shoes. He was obsessed with his craft. And in order to excel in whatever you want to excel in this life, you have to be obsessed about it. There's also a video I've done about the 10 times rule. And Grant Cardone, also says you have to be obsessed with the thing you need to do. And the link to that video is in the comment section below. So Bill Bowerman got to meet Mr. Onitsuka himself. So they started talking, and then Mr. Onitsuka shared how he came with the idea making the sole of the tiger. I'm gonna read it to you. Mr. Onitsuka also told Bowerman that the inspiration for the unique soles on tigers had come to him while eating sushi. Looking down at his wooden platter at the underside of an octopus's leg, he thought a similar suction cup might work in the sole of a runner's flat. Bowerman filed that away. Inspiration, he learned, can come from different things. Things you might eat or find lying around in the house. Remember when I said that Phil Knight was putting in more loans into making these bigger shipments? Phil wasn't understanding that he was growing so fast, but the banker was really anxious about him getting into liquidity problems. And you may think, okay, he's an entrepreneur now, he's a CEO, he has it all together. But in this period, he was still working a corporate job. And then he got into teaching job. He still had a job on the side because he wasn't able, even though he was a founder in his own company that was doing well, he wasn't able to pay himself. It's okay to start with working a corporate or a regular job, next to your brand in order for your brand to grow, and then eventually you can pay yourself and then you can work on it full time. Okay, so where were we? We were talking about the fact that Phil Knight wanted to start this new company with his team. Mind you, they were doing business still with Onitsuka, and they were doing this on the low because they were still under the impression that they were gonna buy Blue Ribbon. And he needed the sales. He needed the revenue in the meantime. So he was doing everything under the wraps. And now there was this big convention with salespeople. They had bright orange boxes with Nike on them. Everything looked great for this convention. Then they looked in the boxes to see the shoes for the first time. And the shoes were shit. It was the first batch, the first shipment they got from this new manufacturer. And everything was done really fast and low quality. It was basically a shit show. This describes what this book is about. It's not about, oh, look at me, I'm this founder and I had this really great idea and everything was successful. This book is about problem into another problem, into finding another solution, then finding out there's another problem. Yeah, so I wanna give you some of the reality checks. Maybe you also need an insight that the grass isn't greener on the other side of entrepreneurship. He was the founder of Nike, so he had to find the solution and he had to lead his team into this solution. So that is basically the essence of this book. Don't take no for an answer. Be obsessed with your craft and figuring it out along the way. You do not always have to know the solution. It's not always going to be a smooth ride. You just have to believe in the vision and you just have to believe that you will find an answer as you go. Well, that is enough talking for today. I will see you next week on another video.